Hi everyone, it's Kay. Welcome back to my channel. So a few months back, I brought to all of you my top 10 male book characters, and today I am going to bring the long-awaited, well, for me, long-awaited sequel, top 10 female characters. So let's jump right into it. So on my top 10 male characters, I got a tad dramatic. And today's goal is to not reach that level of chaos again, but we shall see, the day is young. So when I bring you my top 10 female characters, I'm going to give you a quick description of why they are in my top 10 female characters and maybe something else, we'll see. But before I do that, I would like to mention my 4 honorable mentions because I did have a list that I was going through, and while these aren't like my top 10, I still really love them and wanted to mention them in this video. And those honorable mentions are Lucy Herondale from The Last Hours, Audrey Rose Wadsworth from Stalking Jack the Ripper, Jude Duart from The Folk of Air, and Hazel Levazik from Heroes of Olympus. And I love all those girls so much. I still love them, but they just weren't top 10, and we'll leave it at that. So first, my number 10 of my top 10 females is a 2020 fave. I met her in 2020, and I am so happy I did, and that is Leah Mara from the Cursebreakers series, from the Cursebreakers trilogy, and This Dust Jacket Hates Me. So Leah Mara is a very unique character because she is one of the few fantasy characters I have ever read about who isn't combat trained and would much rather value book smarts and kindness rather than a combat approach. And she was just a very refreshing character to read about overall. She is a princess of a fantasy realm, so that in itself is very unique of her, and that's a very unique mind stance, and she is kind of like pushed aside because of these traits of hers, and she is not named Heir because she values kindness rather than a more brutal approach to things, and I just love her. She is strong-willed, and she has a very level head on her shoulders, and it was just overall a very refreshing change from a typical fantasy royal perspective, and I am so very glad I met Leah Mara this year. And coming in at number 9 is my overhated baby. I love her. That is Alina Starkov from Shadow and Bone, or the Grisha trilogy. So Alina, oh my gosh. So I feel like she gets so much hate because of who she decides to end up with at the end of the series, and I hate that for her because, you know, her choice. Alina was just so in love with her powers and her discovery of her powers, and it was such a cute, pure thing to read about. I loved reading about how she fell in love with this part of herself she never knew existed, and it was just really cute. I loved reading about it. She had so much pressure put on her from literally all sides throughout this whole trilogy, and I was just rooting for her the entire time. She was so strong throughout it all, and it was great to read about. I was just rooting for her to get through it, and spoiler alert, she did, and I'm so proud of her. Watching her journey from this scared orphan soldier into the Sun Summoner by Ruin and Rising was just such a joy to read about, and she better come back in King of Scars 2, Rule of Wolves. Yeah, the title dropped, finally. Rule of Wolves. She better come back. I better get a best friends reunion between her and Nikolai, and I just want to see my girl again. Number 8 is Annabeth Chase from Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Honestly, I don't know what to say about her that all of you don't already know. She's literally the blueprint for all of us on BookTube and the bookish community. She is literally us. So I don't know what I can say that you all don't already know. I can try though. So obviously she is so wise and smart, but in such a natural way. It was always so much fun to read about her and have her problem-solving skills at work and her be able to come up with solutions to everything. Annabeth was just always a joy to read about, and I loved getting to watch her grow up through this whole series and her come back in Heroes of Olympus, still saving everyone's butts. It was great. Honestly, the reason I love her so much is because of her intelligence and how she wields her wisdom as a weapon, and it was just so great. Everyone knows she is a strong member of the camp and the Seven later on, and I just love Annabeth. She's so great to read about, and yeah. Next up at number 7 is my little hacker cutie who can most definitely kick your butt, Cress Darnell. Honestly, she is so resourceful. The fact that she was able to keep herself and Thorn alive in the desert based only off of what she saw on TV her whole life is amazing. Like, if that's not impressive, I don't know what is. Honestly, I don't. Cress is just such a pure ray of sunshine, and the fact that she keeps that positivity and all of that after being locked in a tower satellite her whole life is insane. I love her. She is such a pure ray. She is amazing to read about, and I love her little hacker tidbits and all that fun stuff, and I just love Cress. Now at number 6 is another girl who was introduced to me just this year. That is the strongest contemporary character I have ever had the pleasure of reading about, Beatrice Washington. Literally, she has the weight of the entire country and her family all on her shoulders, and she manages it with such grace, and I just love her so much. She owns my heart, and she constantly breaks it every time she reveals her childhood and all the thoughts running through her head, and I just want to give her a great big hug. I love her so much. I'm so glad I got to read about her in American Royals this year. She is honestly so selfless. I cannot even begin to tell you guys how selfless this woman is. You need to go read, and then you'll join me in wanting to wrap her in a blanket and give her a hug. She puts her duties and her country and her family and everything above her happiness so often, and it breaks my heart every time. And I need to finish Majesty just so I can have peace of mind that she gets her happiness. There are so many layers to Beatrice, and she is just so admirable to read about, and I love her. I want her happiness so badly. We are now in the top 5 of my female favorites, and number 5 goes to the Queen, Linsender. Honestly, despite the fact that she's lunar royalty and a cyborg, she is so relatable to read about. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but just whenever I read her point of view and she has any inner dialogue, I'm just like, same. She is very witty, which I loved, and she had a very dry humor, and also every time a Thorn would like do anything, she would just be like, why? But go along with it. So that was always a joy to read about as well. Cinder is just so powerful because A, she's a lunar royalty. She has all her cool lunar powers, but B, she overcame all the obstacles and what she went through her whole life, and she overcame it, and it was just so powerful to read about. She rose above all her circumstances and succeeded, and that in itself was just so powerful to read about. So yes, I love Queen Linsender. Also, a fun tidbit about me, I absolutely love the old Luna Chronicle covers. I love these covers. I love how the red ties together everything, and then their main points of object are in red. So I just love these old covers and wanted to let you guys know that. Now at number 4 is the female I think is most underrated in the entire Shadowhunter Chronicles, and that is Charlotte Fairchild. She ran an institution and raised 3 handful children. One was dying, one thought he'd never be loved again, and one was just a pain. I don't remember Jessamyn's thing, but point is, she raised those 3 children and ran an institution at 18 years old. Can you say queen power? And all of that was in the Victorian era, so like, she proved herself to be such a capable leader, and she overcame so many obstacles thrown in her way by her time period and the men in charge, and I am just so proud of her. She has so much strength and determination, and she deserves so much more recognition. I love Charlotte Fairchild. And coming in at number 3 is the Mockingjay herself, Katniss Everdeen. So for a very, very long time, Katniss was my number 1 favorite female of all time. I just loved reading her journey and her strength and all of that stuff. Everything she was willing to do to keep the people she loved safe was just so admirable, and I was so inspired by her. She is so strong. She was forced into leading a rebellion at 17, and as a 19-year-old, that is absolutely terrifying to me. The idea of that is terrifying. And then also, she just has so much love to give, but she has seen what love can do in her world, and she has been terrified of the consequences of loving, so she shuts herself down and she makes herself unlikable and all that stuff. And it was just my heart. Katniss was a shaper of my childhood, and I'm so grateful to her. I love her, and I will always be one of her #1 stans. Now, these last two are BookTube, the bookish community favorites, so I don't have to say too much about them, but tell you why I love them so much. So number 2 is Tessa Gray. Honestly, I just relate to Tessa so much. I feel like she is me as a book character. I love reading about her. I love her quotes. Her quotes are so amazing, and her love of books is just a joy to read about. She is so strong, so brave, and so wise, and the fact that she is willing to love and have a family again, knowing the heartbreak that awaits her, is just so brave. I love Tessa. I cannot wait to read more about her and her family in The Wicked Powers, and of course, The Last Hours. So lots of Tessa content coming. I am so excited. And number 1, my favorite female character is none other than Inej Gotha from Six of Crows. So Inej and her points of view were some of my favorite parts of reading Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. Her viewpoints are such a joy to read, and I absolutely love her. Her strength, her determination, her kindness, everything she has overcome, and the morals and the faith she still has are amazing. I love Inej so much, and those are just my top reasons for loving her. Obviously, there are so many, and I just need to reread Six of Crows for her, and I love Inej so much. And those are my top 10 favorite female characters, and this was most definitely less chaotic than my male ones, so yeah, we're doing great. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know in the comments who your favorite female character is, and if you love any of these amazing ladies I just mentioned. If you want to see more of me, hit that subscribe button, and my social medias are linked below if you'd like to find me elsewhere. Until next time, I'm Kay. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye!